The grand archives of the Galactic Council floated in the empty space between three dying stars. It was the oldest structure in known space. Every species that had ever joined the Council had added their knowledge to its halls. Millions of years of history lived inside its walls. Counselor walked through the ancient corridors with careful steps. He was young for only 200 years old. His blue skin glowed softly in the dim light of the archives. He had come here to study the Galactic Codex, the book of laws that governed all species in the Council. The archive keeper, an ancient creature called, watched him with 6 tired eyes. They were one of the oldest species still alive. They remembered things that others had forgotten. "You seek the Codex," the keeper said. His voice was like dry leaves in wind. "Yes," answered. "I am writing a report on the history of galactic law. I wish to understand how our rules came to be." The keeper made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Young ones always want to understand. Understanding is dangerous, counselor. Some things are better left alone." Did not listen. He was young and proud of his intelligence. He believed that knowledge was always good. He did not yet understand that some knowledge carried weight that could crush the soul. The keeper led him to a massive chamber. In the center stood a pedestal made of black stone. On it rested the Galactic Codex, a book made of metal pages that could never be destroyed. Opened the book with trembling hands. He had dreamed of this moment since he was a child. The laws of the galaxy, written by the founders themselves. He read through the pages slowly. There were laws about trade, about war, about the treatment of new species. All of them made sense. All of them had clear reasons written beside them. Then he turned to the first page. He had expected the first law to be something grand. Perhaps a law about peace between species. Perhaps a rule about sharing resources. What he found made him stop breathing. The page was different from all others. It was not made of silver like the rest. It was made of something red, something that looked almost like dried blood. The words were burned into the metal, not carved. The first law read, "No species, council, or entity shall bring harm upon the offspring of Terra. To break this law is to invite extinction." Read it again, and again it made no sense to him. Terra was the human word for Earth. The humans were the youngest species in the Council. They had only been part of galactic civilization for 500 years. They were not the strongest species. They were not the most advanced. They did not have the biggest fleet or the most powerful weapons. Why would the first law, the oldest and most important law in the galaxy, be about protecting human children? He called the archive keeper over. "I do not understand this law. The humans are a minor species. Why would they have such protection?" The keeper's 6 eyes went wide. For a moment saw something in those ancient eyes. It looked like fear. "Do not ask about the first law," the keeper whispered. "Read the other laws, write your report. Forget you ever saw that page." "But it makes no sense," insisted. "The Galactic Codex was written 3,000 years ago. Humans only joined the Council 500 years ago. How can a law about humans be 3,000 years old?" The keeper was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was very quiet. "The humans did not join us 500 years ago, young one. They returned 500 years ago." "Felt cold. Returned, what do you mean?" "I mean nothing. I have said too much already." The keeper turned away. "The records of the first law are sealed. They were sealed by the original Galactic Council. That council no longer exists." "What happened to them?" The keeper stopped walking. He did not turn around. "They broke the first law." Spent 3 days in the archives after that. He searched every database. He read every document he could find. He found almost nothing. The original Galactic Council had been made of 12 species. They had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. They had been powerful beyond imagination. And then, 3,000 years ago, they had simply vanished. Not defeated, not conquered, vanished, as if they had never existed at all. In their place, a new council had formed. The first thing this new council had done was write the Galactic Codex. The first law they wrote was about human children. Found only one other document that mentioned the first law. It was a personal journal from a diplomat, written just after the new council was formed. Most of it was damaged beyond reading. Only one passage survived. We have made the law, we have carved it in blood so that none will forget. The humans have returned to their home star, they have promised peace, they have promised forgiveness. But we saw what they did to the 12. We saw worlds burn, we saw species erased from existence. We will not forget, we cannot forget. The law will remind us. The law will protect us, not from them, from our own stupidity. Closed the journal, his hands were shaking. He told himself it was ancient history. He told himself that whatever the humans had been 3,000 years ago, they were different now. The humans he knew were kind. They were curious and friendly. They built hospitals on other species' worlds. They helped rescue endangered creatures. They were known across the galaxy for their charity and their warmth. Surely the journal was exaggeration. Surely the fear was based on misunderstanding. He decided to put the matter aside. He would write his report about the other laws. He would forget about the first law and its dark mystery. But the universe had other plans. 12,000 light-years away, in a region of space near the border of the Iran Dominion, a human colony world called New Providence orbited a yellow star. It was a farming world, green and peaceful. 200,000 humans lived there, growing food that they shipped to dozens of other worlds. The colony had a school. It was the largest human school outside of Earth, home to 15,000 children from across the sector. Parents sent their children there because it was safe, because it was far from the conflicts and politics of the core worlds, because children could grow up in peace there under open skies, learning and playing without fear. No one on New Providence knew about the first law. No one knew that their existence was protected by an ancient rule written in blood. And no one knew that the Iran Dominion had decided that New Providence was in their way. The Iran were new to the Galactic Council. They were proud and warlike. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered, and they believed that humans were weak. High Warlord stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the star maps. New Providence sat right in the middle of space he wanted. The humans had refused to leave. They had talked about treaties and negotiations and peaceful solutions. Was tired of talking. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We will show these humans what happens when they stand in the way of the Dominion." His officers obeyed without question. None of them knew about the first law either. None of them understood what they were about to wake up. In the Grand Archives, the ancient keeper felt a chill run through his old bones. He looked toward the stars, toward a distant part of the galaxy he could not see. "Fools," he whispered to the darkness. "They are all fools." The galaxy was about to remember why the first law existed. The morning sun rose over New Providence like it did every day. Golden light spread across green fields and blue lakes. Children ran through the corridors of the Providence Academy, laughing and shouting as they went to their classes. Maria Santos was 9 years old. She sat by the window of her classroom, looking out at the sky. Her teacher was talking about the history of human space travel, but Maria was not listening. She was thinking about her birthday next week. Her parents had promised to visit from the mining station where they worked. She did not know that she would never see them again. In orbit above the planet, 17 Iran warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They were massive vessels, covered in weapons and armor. The Iran built their ships for one purpose only: destruction. High Warlord stood on the bridge of the largest ship, the Dominion's Fury. He looked down at the blue and green world below with disgust in his 4 eyes. "Such a waste," he said. "Good land wasted on these weak creatures." His second in command, A warrior named stood beside him. "Shall we broadcast the ultimatum, warlord?" "Yes, give them 1 hour to leave. Not that it matters. They cannot evacuate 200,000 people in 1 hour," smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "But it will make us look reasonable when the council asks questions." The message went out across all frequencies. Every screen on New Providence showed the same image: his cruel face. "People of this human colony," announced, "you are occupying space that belongs to the Iran Dominion. You have 1 hour to evacuate. Anyone who remains after that time will be considered an enemy of the Dominion. This is your only warning." The message ended. Panic spread across the planet. Governor Thomas was an old man who had spent 30 years building New Providence into a peaceful home. He stood in his office, his hands shaking as he tried to contact Earth. "This is New Providence calling Earth Command. We are under threat of attack. 17 warships in orbit. They have given us 1 hour. We cannot evacuate in time. Please respond." The response came quickly. "New Providence, this is Earth Command. Help is coming, hold on." But Earth was far away, too far. Help would take days to arrive. Made another call, this time to the Galactic Council. He begged for intervention. He reminded them of treaties and laws. He asked them to stop the Iran. The Council promised to send a message of concern. A message of concern would not stop plasma bombs. At the Providence Academy, the teachers tried to keep the children calm. They moved them to the underground shelters, deep below the school. They told them it was a drill. They told them everything would be fine. Maria Santos held her best friend's hand as they walked down into the shelter. She was scared, but she did not cry. Her father had always told her to be brave. "It will be okay," she told her friend. "Earth will send help." Above them, the hour ended. Gave the order without hesitation. Begin the cleansing. Start with the largest population center. The largest population center was the Academy. 15,000 children in one place. The first plasma bomb fell from the sky like a falling star. It hit the Academy's main building and turned it into fire. The explosion was so big that people felt it on the other side of the planet. 6,000 children died in that first moment. They did not suffer. They did not have time. 1 second they existed, and the next second they were gone. The underground shelters saved some. Maria Santos survived the first blast. She huddled in the darkness with hundreds of other children, listening to the world end above them. More bombs fell. The Iran were not trying to conquer. They were trying to erase. Governor stood in his office as the ceiling collapsed around him. His last act was to send a final message to Earth. Not a call for help, just a record, a witness. "They are killing the children," he said, his voice breaking. "Tell Earth, tell everyone, they are killing our children." Then the bomb hit his building, and he was gone. The attack lasted 4 hours. When it ended, New Providence was not a world anymore. It was a graveyard. 160,000 people dead, 9,000 children dead. The Academy was a crater filled with ash. Some survived, a few thousand, hidden in deep caves and distant farms. They emerged into a world of smoke and silence. They looked up at the sky and saw the Iran fleet still there, waiting. Broadcast one final message. Let this be a lesson. The Dominion does not negotiate with weakness. Then his fleet jumped away, leaving the survivors alone with their dead. On Earth, the news arrived like a knife to the heart. The images spread across every screen. The burning Academy, the lists of dead children, the final message from Governor. For a moment, all of humanity was silent. 8 billion people united in horror. Then the silence changed. It became something else, something cold. In a bunker deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, a room that had been dark for centuries suddenly came alive. Red lights blinked on ancient screens. Systems that most people had forgotten existed began to wake up. A young technician named Sarah was the first to see it. She had been assigned to monitor this facility as a ceremonial duty. Nothing ever happened here. The equipment was so old that no one even remembered what it was for. Now the screens were showing words she did not understand. Prometheus Protocol INITILIZED. Attack ON protected population confirmed. CSULTIS juvenile. Response level maximum. What is this? She whispered. An older officer appeared beside her. His face was pale. I never thought I would see this, he said. I hoped I never would. What is the Prometheus Protocol? The officer did not answer her question. Instead, he picked up a phone and made a call. This is Colonel at Station 7. Prometheus is active. I repeat, Prometheus is active. God help us all. Within hours, everything changed. Human ambassadors across the galaxy received the same order: return home, say nothing, leave immediately. Human traders closed their shops. Human doctors left their patients. Human teachers said goodbye to their students. Everywhere in the galaxy, humans simply stopped what they were doing and went home. The alien species were confused. They asked questions. They demanded explanations. They received nothing but silence. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. The human seat was empty. What is happening? Demanded the representative. Why have the humans withdrawn? No one knew. No one could explain. Only the oldest species understood. The ambassador, a creature older than most civilizations, stood up from his seat. His ancient face was full of fear. We must leave, he announced. All ships will withdraw from this region of space immediately. Why? Asked Counselor, who was attending the meeting as an observer. They looked at him with sad, knowing eyes. Because I am 4,000 years old, young one. I remember what humans are, and I remember what they do when their children are harmed. What do they do? They was already walking toward the door. He paused and looked back. They stopped pretending to be civilized. Across the galaxy, in shipyards that had been silent for centuries, lights began to turn on. Massive doors opened. Ships that were supposed to be decommissioned, weapons that were supposed to be destroyed, armies that were supposed to be disbanded, all of them began to wake up. Humanity had been kind for 500 years. Humanity had been peaceful. Humanity had smiled and traded and helped and healed. But humanity had never forgotten what they truly were. And now the galaxy was about to remember. The message went out to every human in existence, from Earth to the farthest colony. The children have been HARMED. Humanity RESPONDS. The Oran Dominion celebrated their victory. They did not know that they had just made the worst mistake in the history of their species. They did not know that death was coming for them. 3 weeks passed in silence. The galaxy had never experienced anything like it. For 500 years, humans had been everywhere. They traded on every station. They worked in every sector. Their ships filled their laughter filled the halls of 1,000 worlds. Now they were gone. Every human business was closed. Every human embassy was dark. Every human ship had returned to their home systems. 8 billion people on Earth and another 12 billion across their colonies had simply gone quiet. The Galactic Council met every day, trying to understand what was happening. They sent messages to Earth. They received no response. They sent diplomatic ships. The ships were turned away at the border of human space by automated defense systems. They are preparing for war, said the Oran representative warlord. He had been sent to replace at the council while the High Warlord prepared defenses at home. The humans are cowards. They are hiding because they know they cannot defeat us. Some council members agreed with him. The humans had never been known for military strength. Their fleet was small. Their weapons were outdated. Everyone knew this. But the older species said nothing. They had already left. They had sealed their borders. The Silent Ones had not spoken a word in 3 weeks. Counselor watched and listened. He remembered the words from the ancient journal. He remembered the fear in the archive keeper's eyes. He did not believe that the humans were hiding in fear. He believed they were preparing something terrible. On the Oran, High Warlord stood before his gathered fleets. 1,200 warships floated in formation around the planet. It was the largest military force the Dominion had ever assembled. "Let the humans come," announced to his warriors. "We will crush them as we crushed their colony. We will teach the galaxy that the Oran bow to no one." His warriors cheered. They were proud and confident. They had no doubt that victory would be theirs. They did not know that they were already dead. They just had not stopped breathing yet. The human fleet arrived without warning. There was no faster-than-light signature, no energy surge, no indication that anything was coming. One moment the space around the Oran was empty except for their own ships. The next moment the sky was filled with nightmares. The ships that appeared were nothing like the human vessels the galaxy knew. Those had been small, efficient, designed for trade and exploration. These were something else entirely. The smallest of them was larger than the biggest Oran warship. They were covered in weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Their hulls were black, drinking in light. They moved with a speed that should have been impossible for ships their size. And at the center of the fleet was something that made Evan's blood run cold. The THS Retribution was 7 kilometers long. It was not a ship. It was a moving fortress, a weapon made into a vessel. Its surface bristled with cannons capable of cracking planets. Its engines burned with the light of captured stars. No one in the galaxy had known this ship existed. No one had known that humans could build something like this. But did not have time to wonder. His communications officer was screaming, "Warlord, we are receiving a transmission." The face that appeared on screen was human, an older man with dark skin and gray hair. His uniform was simple, but his eyes were not. His eyes held something that had never seen in a human before. Cold fury, patient hatred, the look of a predator that has finally cornered its prey. "I am Admiral James of the Terran Defense Force," the man said. His voice was calm and steady. "3 weeks ago, your species attacked the human colony of New Providence. You killed 160,000 of our people. 9,000 of them were children. You bombed a school. You murdered 6,000 children in the first strike alone." Tried to respond, but the Admiral was not finished. "You laughed as they burned, you called us weak, you thought we would do nothing." The Admiral paused. "You were wrong." "This is an act of war," shouted. "The Galactic Council will." "The Council will do nothing," Admiral interrupted. "They know better. They remember what we did to the last civilization that harmed our children. You do not remember because we erased them so completely that even their memory is almost gone." The Admiral leaned forward. "You struck our children. Now witness what happens when humanity stops being civilized." The transmission ended. Screamed orders at his fleet. "Attack, destroy them, show them Iran might." 1,200 warships surged forward, weapons charging, warriors roaring battle cries. The battle lasted 11 minutes. It was not a fight, it was an execution. Human weapons cut through Iran shields like they did not exist. Human ships moved faster than Iran targeting systems could track. The Retribution fired once, just once, and 50 Iran ships simply vanished. Watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart. Ships exploded around him. Warriors who had boasted of their strength died screaming. The pride of the Iran Dominion was being erased from existence. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." But it was not impossible. It was simply the truth that the galaxy had forgotten. The truth that humanity had hidden behind smiles and kindness for 500 years. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had simply chosen not to show their strength. They had chosen to be kind because kindness was better than war. But that choice could be taken away. And when the gentle mask fell, what remained underneath was something terrible. The last Oran warship died in a flash of light. 1,200 ships gone in 11 minutes. Not a single human vessel had been scratched. Silence fell over the Oran. The people looked up at the sky and saw death waiting above them. But the humans did not fire. The Retribution and its terrible fleet simply waited, hanging in orbit like a threat made solid. Then they came. Thousands of them, falling from the human vessels like rain. They landed across the planet, and from them came human soldiers, not the peacekeepers the galaxy knew. These were warriors in black armor, carrying weapons that hummed with deadly energy. They did not attack civilians. They did not bomb cities. They walked past frightened Oran families without even looking at them. They were not here for the innocent. They were here for the guilty. Admiral's voice broadcast across the planet. People of the Oran Dominion, we are not here to destroy you. We are here for justice. Every soldier who participated in the attack on New Providence, every officer who gave orders, every leader who approved the mission. We know their names. We have their faces. We are coming for them, only them. The hunt began. Across the galaxy, the other species watched in silence. They saw the might that humanity had hidden. They saw the precision of their justice. And they remembered. Counselor sat in his quarters watching the reports come in. He thought about the first law. He thought about the ancient journal. He finally understood. The law was not written to protect humans. The law was written to protect everyone else from what humans would do if their children were harmed. And now the galaxy was learning that lesson again. On the Oran, High Warlord ran. He abandoned his soldiers. He abandoned his honor. He fled to his personal fortress, the most heavily defended place on the planet. It did not matter. The humans were coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. High Warlord's fortress had stood for 1,000 years. It was built into the side of a mountain, protected by walls of reinforced steel and shields powered by 3 separate generators. 100,000 soldiers had died trying to take it in past wars. It had never fallen. It fell in 6 hours. The human soldiers moved through the fortress like ghosts. They did not charge blindly. They did not waste lives. They cut power to the shields with precise strikes. They breached the walls with weapons that melted metal like butter. They advanced room by room, level by level. Watched the security screens as his defenses crumbled. He saw his elite guards, the finest warriors in the Dominion, fall one by one. The humans were not cruel. They offered surrender to everyone they encountered. Those who put down their weapons were allowed to leave. Those who fought were killed with terrible efficiency. "This cannot be happening," muttered. "We are Oran, we are the strongest." But strength meant nothing against an enemy who had been fighting wars since before the Oran species had discovered fire. An enemy who had faced extinction 12 times and survived. An enemy whose history was written in the blood of everyone who had ever underestimated them. The door to his command chamber exploded inward. Human soldiers poured through, their weapons pointed at the warlord. Behind them walked a woman in a simple uniform. She was not young and she carried no weapon, but something about her made take a step back. "High Warlord," the woman said, "I am captain of the Terran Justice Division. You are under arrest for crimes against humanity, specifically for the murder of 9,000 children on New Providence." Tried to reach for his weapon. A human soldier moved faster than his eyes could follow and knocked it from his hand. "You cannot do this," growled. "I am a sovereign leader. The Galactic Council will not allow this." Captain looked at him with cold eyes. "The Galactic Council has already been informed. They have chosen to say nothing. It seems they have decided that some laws are more important than protecting murderers." Was dragged from his fortress in chains. The Oran people watched in shock as their mighty warlord was paraded through the streets like a common criminal. Some of them wept. Some of them simply stared. None of them tried to stop the humans. They had seen what happened to the fleet. They had seen what happened to the fortress. They knew that fighting was pointless. The trial was held in orbit, aboard the Retribution. It was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Every species with access to communications watched as High Warlord was brought before a human tribunal. Admiral presided over the court. His face was stone, his voice was ice. "Of the Oran Dominion," the Admiral began, "you are charged with the murder of 160,000 human civilians, including 9,000 children. You are charged with the deliberate targeting of the Providence Academy, a school. You are charged with crimes against humanity. How do you answer these charges?" Stood as tall as he could in his chains. "I answer that I am a warrior. I did what warriors do. The weak must make way for the strong. This is the law of nature." The Admiral nodded slowly. "I see. And the children, the 6,000 who died in the first strike, were they weak, warlord?" "They were human, Spat. That is enough." Silence fell over the courtroom. Somewhere in the gallery, a human woman began to cry. She had lost her daughter in the attack. Admiral pressed a button on his console. "Let the record show the accused's statement. Now we will show evidence." The screens came alive with images. The academy before the attack, full of laughing children. The academy after, a smoking crater. The faces of the dead, one by one, 9,000 children who would never grow up. Then came the audio, the screams, the last messages sent by teachers trying to protect their students, the voice of a little girl calling for her mother as fire fell from the sky. The trial lasted 4 minutes. The evidence was clear. The confession was on record. There was nothing to debate. "The tribunal finds you guilty," Admiral announced. "The sentence is as follows." He leaned forward, his eyes locked on Space. "You will be taken to New Providence. You will be placed in the ruins of the academy, surrounded by walls on which we have carved the names of every child you murdered. And there you will stay, alone, until you die. You will have food and water. You will live for many years, and every day you will look at those names. Every night you will dream of what you did. This is your punishment, not death, memory." Space went pale. "Just kill me, be merciful." "Mercy?" The Admiral's voice cracked like a whip. "You ask for mercy. Where was your mercy when children burned? Where was your mercy when mothers lost their bobbies?" He shook his head. "No, you will live, you will remember. And when you finally die alone in those ruins, your name will be forgotten, but their names will be carved in stone forever." Was taken away screaming. The Galactic Council met the next day. The human ambassador attended for the first time in 3 weeks. The chamber fell silent when she entered. The council president, a elder, spoke carefully. "Ambassador, the council wishes to express concern about recent events. The military action against the Oran Dominion was conducted without council approval. This is a violation of galactic law." Ambassador looked around the room slowly. Her eyes lingered on the Oran representative, who could not meet her gaze. "You wish to speak of violations?" she asked quietly. She pressed a button on her console. The screams of children filled the chamber. The council members flinched. Some covered their ears. The Oran representative tried to leave, but the doors would not open. "This is the violation that matters," said over the screams. "This is the sound of 6,000 children dying because your council did nothing to stop it." She pressed another button. The screaming stopped. 3,000 years ago, your predecessors wrote a law, the first law. They wrote it because they saw what humanity could do when our children were harmed. They wrote it to remind themselves never to let it happen again. She paused. "You forgot. You let a member of this council murder our children and did nothing." The council president tried to speak. "Ambassador, we sent a message of concern." "A message of concern," laughed, but there was no humor in it. Our children were burning and you sent a message of concern. She stood up. Let me be very clear. We are not angry at all of you. The Iran acted alone. The Iran have been punished. This matter is closed. Relief spread across some faces in the chamber. But continued, and the relief vanished. Humanity will not forget that this council let it happen. We will not forget that you did nothing while our children died. We are returning to galactic society. We will trade with you. We will work with you. We will smile at you. She walked toward the door. Before she left, she turned back one last time. But remember this day. Remember what you saw our fleet do. Remember that we showed you only a fraction of our power. And remember that the first law exists for a reason. Her eyes swept across every face in the room. Because the next time someone harms our children, we may not stop with the guilty. We may decide that an example needs to be made. An example that the galaxy will remember for another 3,000 years. She left, the doors closed behind her. No one in the council spoke for a long time. They were all thinking about the ancient records, about the 12 species that had once ruled the galaxy, about how completely they had been erased. Counselor sat in his observer seat, trembling. He understood now. He understood everything. The first law was not just a law, it was a warning, a reminder of what humans could become. And today, the galaxy had been reminded. 6 months after the Iran Reckoning, as the galaxy came to call it, Counselor returned to the Grand Archives. He was a different person now. The young, proud diplomat who had first walked these halls was gone. In his place was someone older, someone who had seen too much. The ancient keeper was waiting for him. "You have come back," the said. His 6 eyes studied with something that might have been sympathy. "You wish to know the full truth now." "Yes," said. "I need to understand. I need to know why the first law was written. I need to know what happened 3,000 years ago." The keeper was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "Very well. The seals on those records have been lifted by order of humanity itself. They want the galaxy to remember. They want everyone to know what happened so that it never happens again." He led deeper into the archives than he had ever been before. They passed through corridors that grew older and darker. The walls here were made of strange materials, metals that the modern galaxy did not use anymore. Finally, they reached a chamber at the very heart of the archives. In the center stood a single pedestal. On it rested a crystal that glowed with soft light. "This is the memory stone," the keeper said. "It contains the complete history of the First Contact era, everything the original council did, everything humanity did in response. Touch it and you will see." Reached out with trembling hands, his fingers touched the crystal. The universe exploded into light and memory. He saw Earth 3,000 years ago, a small blue world just beginning to reach for the stars. Humans were young then, full of hope and wonder. They built their first colony ships with such care, such love. Families volunteered to travel to distant stars to build new homes among the cosmos. They believed that the universe would welcome them. They believed that other intelligent species would be friends. They were wrong. The original Galactic Council ruled the galaxy at that time. 12 species, each more powerful than the next. They had controlled known space for 50,000 years. They saw themselves as the rightful masters of all creation. When they discovered humans, they did not see friends. They saw resources. The first human colony ships were captured by raiders with the secret approval of the Council. 10,000 humans, taken from their ships in the dark between stars. Men and women were put to work in mines. The elderly were disposed of as useless. The children were taken as curiosities, pets for wealthy aliens, specimens for scientific study, entertainment for those who enjoyed watching suffering. Saw the camps where human children were kept. He saw the experiments. He saw the cruelty. He wanted to look away, but the crystal would not let him. Earth received word of what had happened. They sent diplomats to beg for their people's return. The council laughed and sent the diplomats back in pieces. For 1 year, humanity tried peace. They tried negotiation. They tried appealing to mercy, to justice, to reason. The council responded by taking more colony ships. By the end of that year, 30,000 human children were in alien hands, suffering in ways that no child should ever suffer. Then something changed. Felt it through the crystal, a shift in humanity's collective soul. The hope and wonder that had driven them to the stars died. In its place, something else was born, something cold, something patient, something absolutely merciless. Humanity stopped asking for peace. They stopped building colony ships and started building warships. They stopped training scientists and started training soldiers. Every resource on Earth was redirected to a single purpose. The council noticed but did not worry. Humans were primitive. Their technology was centuries behind the great powers of the galaxy. What could they possibly do? They learned the answer 18 months later. The first human attack was not a battle, it was a message. A single human ship appeared in the heart of the Empire, the species that had led the raids on human colonies. It flew directly to there and transmitted a simple message. Return our children within 1 hour. This is your only warning. They laughed. They sent 100 warships to destroy the single human vessel. 1 hour later, it was gone, not conquered, not damaged, gone. The entire planet reduced to rubble in minutes. The human ship had carried a weapon that should not have existed, a technology that broke the known laws of physics. Humanity had spent 18 months building it, driven by a rage that made the impossible possible. This was only the beginning. For the next 18 months, humanity waged a war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They did not conquer. They did not negotiate. They simply destroyed. The empire, which had bought human children for their fighting pits, lasted 3 weeks. Every world they owned was burned. The triumvirate of ash, which had provided the ships for the raids, lasted 2 months. Not just their worlds were destroyed, but their space stations, their ships, their colonies, everything. When the humans were done, not a single member of those 3 species remained alive. One by one, the 12 species of the original council fell. Some tried to surrender. Humanity did not accept surrenders. Some tried to flee to distant parts of the galaxy. Humanity followed them. Some tried to hide their leaders and warriors among innocent populations. Humanity found them anyway and killed only the guilty, leaving witnesses to tell the tale. Watched in horror as entire civilizations were erased from existence. Billions of lives gone. Species that had existed for millions of years ended in weeks. And through it all, humanity took back their children. Every raid was accompanied by rescue teams. Every battle had one primary objective: find the human children and bring them home. Many had died in captivity. Many more were in ways that would never heal. But those who survived were rescued, every single one. When the last child was home, the war ended as suddenly as it had begun. Humanity to their own space and went silent. The galaxy was changed forever. The 12 great powers were gone. In their place was rubble and memory. The survivors, the species who had not participated in the crimes against humanity, formed a new council. Their first act was to write the Galactic Codex. Their first law was the warning about human children. They wrote it not to protect humans. They wrote it to protect themselves and their descendants from the temptation of ever making the same mistake. The crystal released. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Now you understand," the keeper said softly. "Now you know why the old ones fear them, why the first law was written in blood." Could not speak. The images were still burning in his mind. The destroyed worlds, the erased species, the terrible efficiency of human vengeance. "The humans could have destroyed everyone," he finally whispered. "They could have taken the galaxy. Why did they stop?" Because they got their children back, the keeper answered. Because the killing was never the point. The children were the point. Once the children were safe, the rage faded. Humanity returned to what they wanted to be, a peaceful species, reaching for the stars with hope. The keeper helped to his feet. That is what makes them so dangerous, the old continued. They do not want to be monsters. They want to be kind. They want to be friends to all creatures. But if you force them to become monsters, if you give them no choice but to unleash what lives inside them, then nothing in the universe can stop them. Left the archives that day with a new understanding. He returned to his work at the council, but he never forgot what he had seen. The galaxy returned to normal in the years that followed. Humans reopened their embassies. Human traders filled the. Human doctors worked in alien hospitals. Human teachers taught in alien schools. They smiled and laughed and helped and healed. They were the kindest species anyone had ever met. But sometimes, late at night, an alien would catch a human looking at their child with a particular expression. A soft look, full of love and fierce protection. And in that moment they would remember. They would remember that human kindness was a choice, a gift freely given, and they would remember what happened when that gift was refused. On New Providence, the ruins of the academy still stood. The walls around them were covered with 9,000 names, carved deep into the stone. In the center of those ruins, High Warlord sat alone, reading those names over and over. He had stopped screaming months ago. He had stopped begging for death. Now he simply sat and read and remembered. This was human justice, not revenge, memory. In his private quarters on a space station far from human space, Counselor wrote in his journal. It would be found centuries later and become one of the most famous documents in galactic history. The final passage read, "The humans are wonderful. They are kind and generous and curious. They build hospitals on worlds not their own. They rescue species from extinction. They laugh easily and love deeply. In all my years, I have never met a more gentle people. But they are also something else, something ancient, something that sleeps beneath their smiles. The first law reminds us what happens when that something wakes up. The first law protects us from our own foolishness. The first law is not about human children at all. It is about us. It is a reminder that some sleeping things should never be disturbed. Touch their children and you touch the heart of humanity. Harm their children and you do not face an enemy. You face extinction itself." We made a law to remind ourselves, and today I understand why we wrote it. I pray that the galaxy never forgets again. The galaxy did not forget. For the next 3,000 years, no species ever broke the first law again.